Hi everyone, this is Phil Travis. This week's announcement is for week 11 here in American History Part 1. This week we are going to be examining slavery in America during the 1800s. So we are going to be, from this point, looking at the institution of slavery, and we're going to begin thinking about how the repressive institution of slavery led to ultimately the American Civil War, which is where we will be going in this class, from the institution of slavery to ultimately a dispute in the United States that leads to the Civil War, which is where, of course, we will be finishing this class with the Reconstruction process at the end of the American Civil War. So this week we're going to be focusing on the peculiar institution, as it was called during the time, the institution of slavery in the 1800s. We're reading chapter 11 from our textbook, our Eric Foner textbook. There is no major assignment this week. Just read chapter 11. No primary sources for this week. Just read chapter 11 and participate in the discussion forum. I want to kind of, give us a lighter week. You had a paper that was due last week. You had a test due the week before. So this week, just one chapter to read. Participate in the discussion forum. I will get your grades all caught up and so forth. And we can start this new test section by thinking about how the institution of slavery existed, how it functioned, and how it became increasingly more entrenched in the southern United States, and how that ultimately created a situation that eventually led to the American Civil War. So we'll keep this announcement relatively short. We'll get right to the factoid. The factoid is this. So remember, email me this factoid for your extra credit bonus point. I'll be adding the bonus points to a test score at the end of the term. So, of course, everybody, I think, by this point knows that. The factoid is this. Eli Whitney is one of the most significant American inventors. Eli Whitney was very famous for his development of interchangeable parts, which revolutionized the Industrial Revolution. Eli Whitney developed interchangeable parts, particularly so that he could convince the Army to purchase muskets that were made of interchangeable parts. And so he built all of these muskets from interchangeable parts. He went to the Army, did a demonstration, showed that these muskets could all be taken apart and put back together. They weren't made up of unique different parts. They were all the same. And of course, that was a really important innovation. That made the Industrial Revolution possible. The idea that you could build things out of universal pieces that could be then assembled and replaced and put on other items. And of course, Eli Whitney did this first with respect to rifles for the American military. However, Eli Whitney was also very significant for an innovation that had a very significant role to play when it came to the institution of slavery and when it came to the development of the American Civil War. And this invention that I'm referring to is, of course, the cotton gin. The cotton gin was a device that Eli Whitney developed to take seeds out of the cotton. And so cotton fibers were very good for making clothes, but before the cotton gin, it really was not a widely used textile product. And the reason was because the seeds were really hard to get out of the pods. You have to take them out and they prick your hand. It's very difficult. It takes a tremendous amount of time to just clean a few, relatively speaking, to clean a relatively small amount of cotton pods. And so it was very laborious, and as a result of that, cotton was not really widely used before the cotton gin. But with the advent of the cotton gin, you had a machine where a person could turn a crank, and the crank would turn its wheel that would pull all of the seeds out of the cotton. It would de-seed the cotton. And the result of that was an explosion in the cotton industry in the American South in the 1800s. Because of the increased demand for cotton in the American South, it also increased a demand for slavery in the American South. So with the innovation of the cotton gin, you also saw an explosion, really, of the use of slavery on deep South cotton plantations. Increasingly, cotton plantations, southern plantations, relied on cotton as a source of economic revenue. It sold a tremendous amount of cotton to the northeast of the United States, as well as international powers like the United States. And the cotton gin's development meant a greater reliance on slavery in the American South. And the ramifications for this invention were really multifold. In one respect, it created a booming economy for slave owners, plantation owners in the Deep South. It also created an arrogance on the part of political authorities in the Deep South because they believed that the economic or the commodity that they provided was so powerful, economically speaking, so needed by the North, so needed by international powers, that effectively they had a certain level of economic leverage on the North and also with respect to international powers. Many political figures in the South, when you move towards the Civil War, actually believed that if a war were to break out, international powers would intervene to protect their access to southern cotton. So it produced a sort of arrogance on the part of plantation owners in the South because of the power of the cotton trade and the economic profit produced by it. It also produced an entrenchment of slavery in the South. Slavery became more deeply embedded in the South. And so the South increasingly came to rely more and more on slavery while the rest of the world was really moving away from slavery. And so as movements like the Free Soil movement began to become more predominant in places like the North, in which individuals believed that all individuals should be able to work for a wage, and they saw slavery as undermining the right of an individual to work for a wage, this was like the new wave of the future in terms of the Industrial Revolution in the world. But the South had sort of fallen behind due to its reliance on slavery and really the cotton manufacturing industry through slavery. And so the South, as a result of Eli Whitney's cotton gin, the South kind of became an embedded slave society where slavery made up the core economy of the entire South, and it relied on a very particular commodity for its economic viability, particularly in the Deep South. And so it is Eli Whitney's cotton gin that really produces an expansion of a reliance on slavery in the South, even as the rest of the world was moving away from slavery. Eli Whitney's cotton gin created a level of arrogance amongst political leaders in the South because of the economic power, and it created a greater reliance on slavery. And in that sense, Eli Whitney's cotton gin was a really key development in the lead up to the American Civil War. Just email me Eli Whitney's cotton gin and its significance with respects to the lead up to the American Civil War. Just give me a little summary of that. I know I just rambled on there, but just trying to make a point as we're learning about this week. So hopefully it's helpful. And let's have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions.